Hello, and welcome to AWS Made Easy Ask Us Anything live stream with me, Stephen Barr, and Raul Subramaniam. How are you doing, Raul? How was your weekend?
Doing very well. I must say I have had one of the most exciting weekends that just went by. I don't know whether you follow any cricket, but we just had one of the most epic cricket matches this weekend, India versus Pakistan.
Oh boy, okay, so
And
that's a pretty classic rivalry.
absolutely. And India kind of won it literally on the very last ball of the match and came back from a near losing scenario. There's actually a very, very interesting post that I'll try and find and bring up. There's a post about how Disney Hotstar beat a new record there on AWS, and they kind of manage their entire streaming platform on AWS, and they were live streaming the match. They had 18 million viewers who kind of broke all records for simultaneous live stream of any match. It's expected that about 1 billion people were watching the match across the world. There were 90,000 people at the stadium. And then there was another very interesting stat that somebody posted from. So we have something called the UPI, or the Unified Payment Interface,
Okay,
which basically talks about online transactions that happen across the country. And during one phase of the match, the absolutely most crucial 3 overs of the match, the online transactions in the entire subcontinent went down by 23%, like massive drop. And here we're talking about millions of transactions every minute.
wow. Okay, so everyone was watching the game.
Everyone.
People weren't doing anything else. They were not buying drinks, not doing just all right, focused on this particular. That's incredible.
When you have 1 billion people watching one sporting event, I mean, it changes everything in terms of the economics of what happens at that time.
That's really, really neat. Wow. Okay.
But it was a match to watch. It was just absolutely fascinating.
Wow. Well, great. Well, congrats to the win for India. That's good news. And of course, Diwali was yesterday, or over the last couple of days, right?
Correct. In fact, we've been having celebrations over the last 3 days. So, yeah, interesting to come back to work after literally being just eating. It's like Thanksgiving for 3 days. So imagine what that feels like. So
that sounds pretty good.
How was your weekend?
Well, not as exciting as that, but I did go to this really fun group. There's the Puget Sound Mycological Society. So they're mushroom enthusiasts. Here, let me show you this art I got there. Some pretty fun ones. I'll put the other ones up later, but this was a print that we got of these mushrooms. And the ink is actually made from mushrooms. And let's see, what are the other ones? Oh, here's another neat one. This is this is called the Foul Play Duo, and there's a chicken and a turkey. I still need to open it up, but the actual details of the turkey are mushrooms.
Wow!
But it's awesome. Amazing the detail orientedness of this community, because you can see these mushrooms. They have all these mushrooms everywhere. I say, okay, this one here tastes delicious. It's gourmet. And see this little fringe? Because this other one here, oh, this is poisonous and will give you hallucinations and then kill you. But this little fringe makes all this difference. I don't have the confidence to go out and gather one of these things and know that that I really, truly identified and separated these two things carefully. But it was neat being among a crowd of very enthusiastic supporters. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And we've gone when we've lived here. We've gone several times in the past. So that's something we look forward to.
That's pretty awesome.
And it was I tweeted about this. There was a guy there giving a talk who had just written a book, and it was so crowded. And there's a person who was trying to stop everyone from overcrowding the room, but she was a bit shy, and so I stood next to her and she's, can you just help me kind of stop people from overcrowding this room? So I've now had my first official role as a bouncer for a mushroom talk, which all right. Cool. It was fun.
Yeah, you always got to keep your career options open. So.
Well, I think this is a pretty docile crowd. I think if this was some kind of rowdy club on a Saturday night in London, I don't think I would have kept anyone out. But some mushroom enthusiasts trying to learn about a mushroom talk on a Sunday afternoon, I think I can handle them.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we've got a few announcements, so let's transition over to our announcement segment, and then we'll introduce our guest of the hour. So here goes. All right. So first announcement, and then this is all over AWS media. You can't possibly not have heard of reInvent at this point. If you follow any AWS related hashtags, this is right around the corner. It's incredible. What was once a quick post-Thanksgiving gathering of a few enthusiasts is now 40,000 people, and
I think in 2019 it was 60,000. It was about 60,000. So yeah, it's pretty huge now in terms of events.
And that's just attendees, and you think about vendors, and then you think the caterers and the hotels and all the businesses and all the things around it. It's amazing how big it is.
Absolutely. So that's coming up November 28th, if I'm not mistaken, to December 2nd. And the first announcement.
Absolutely. And so make sure we watch PRT 086. This is Raul's talk. This is the Wednesday cost optimization lightning talk. So if you haven't signed up, make sure to sign up. And you can see in our AWS Made Easy YouTube channel, Raul has done other talks about CloudFix, so we wanted to make sure it would be, I guess, similar, but also new information, and we're just looking forward to hearing your talk track on CloudFix.
Great.
And you're hosting a watch party?
Absolutely. This is something that we're very excited about. So for all the keynotes, we'd be hosting the watch party. We have a beautiful suite in Vegas, so if you want to join us, have conversations and discussions and great food as we listen to these keynotes, let us know. We'd love to have you there. And we'll make a party of it. So looking forward to hearing from you. If you need to reach us, our Twitter handles are down there on the banner. So just reach out to us, and we'd love to have you there.
Absolutely. Reach out, either Raul Dev Factory or Steve JB. Love to have you at the watch party and just have a great time talking about AWS, all things reInvent. Well, speaking of parties, events, we had a slightly smaller but no less significant event. We had the first of a series of DevSpaces hackathons. And so bringing in our theme of Graviton, so we've got DevSpaces, and DevSpaces is a cloud-based IDE. It can run on x86, but it also runs on the Graviton 3. And so I'm putting the URL here. So you can try it out right now. Within a few seconds, you can be in a web VS Code-based IDE running on an AWS Graviton 3. We've done lots of content about it. I'll give you a 10-second sneak preview of what the hackathon was like. We did a hackathon retrospective for days, and you don't have to think about it. And all of these, I look at each one of these things, and this is like, oh, this is a time where I didn't have to go back and clean up my environment. Each one of those things. Yeah. So that, I'm happy about that. Yeah. You see, I've got my Jupyter one running here. My Graph Expert 2. So the idea is, I had some friends over. We had some Thai food. We spent some time talking about DevSpaces. And then I have this big plastic folding table. We just set up a bunch of monitors. It's like a LAN party. And then we just did some programming. We each worked on some personal projects for a while. We shared our experiences, and then did a retrospective live stream about it. So that just happened yesterday, and I'll put the link in the comments. And here's the link to the LinkedIn event. Fortunately, for some reason, StreamYard cut off the first 5 minutes or so. But I'll post the full YouTube one that has the full thing with the introduction. That'll be coming out later today, I think. All right. Awesome. Well, now for the main topic of the hour, I want to introduce Marcos Ortiz. Welcome, Marcos, to the show. So Marcos, he has a couple of roles. It's really impressive. He's a data engineer by day over at X Team. He's a content creator, and he has a YouTube channel about investing. And then now, the focus of our discussion, he runs the AWS Graviton Weekly newsletter. So Marcos, we're really happy to have you on the show today. We're excited to learn about Graviton, about you. So yeah, tell us about yourself. How did you get started with AWS and with this whole world?
Awesome. Thank you, Steve and Rahul for the invitation. My name is Marcos Ortiz. I am a data engineer at X Team working right now for Riot Games. My first, I think almost 5 years ago was my first experience working with AWS. Fortunately,
Nice.
I have worked with many services for the company, for the company. But I always more focused in the data engineer and data analytics space inside AWS.
Awesome. And then how did you get into content creation?
I think it's one of those things that are very fun for me, because I love my always goal is to help people. The best way I found to do this is create content. For example, with the YouTube channel, with my articles, and of course, right now with this newsletter, focus only in AWS Graviton.
Got it. So how did you get into AWS Graviton? Like what made you create the newsletter and get started with Graviton specific stuff?
So my first experience with Graviton was doing a migration I think it was a Postgres SQL in Amazon RDS.
Okay. Was this the managed Aurora Postgres, or was it just a separate RDS
No,
instance?
just a separate instance from RDS.
Okay.
We saw that we are spending a lot of money in that particular instance. I read some articles about Graviton. I saw that you can actually save almost 20% about the cost of the only for moving to Graviton. Is, oh my God, what is this? This is very cool. Of course, why I started the newsletter, because I want to solve the problem for myself, because I wanted to keep people informed, and myself included, about the last trends, how people is actually moving to the Graviton. I didn't found a condensed way, a fast way, quick way to keep informed about this. So I've created the article, the newsletter.
Neat.
That's really neat. You can just see this hole in the ecosystem and say, well, I could do that, and just jump right in.
Yeah, I think it was one that was fortunately I was invited to the AWS Community Builders program this year.
Neat.
Fun fact, I was invited for the data group, not for the Graviton group. And they told me, I told friends, I want to write about data, but I want to write about Graviton as well. They told me, okay, that's cool. I think it's very good, because no one right now is doing precisely like that. So it's very good to see someone excited about this.
So that's actually a really good segue into the next question, which is, how have you seen adoption of Graviton kind of right from the beginning? I mean, first you had, I think they've had 3 different generations of Graviton processors now over the last 4 years. So you've had, the initial Graviton, of course. I don't think that many adopted the original Graviton. Graviton 2 is kind of where a bunch of the momentum came about. Mm-hmm. And then Graviton 3 seems to be in a little bit of a niche of its own. How do you see people adopting Graviton? Where do you see, customers really benefiting from it?
For example, there is a very interesting report for the guys from Vantage. and you can see there that right now in this today it's Q3 2022, there are less or 1%.
Less than 1%. Yep. Correct.
Yes, 1% people is
Yeah.
already using Graviton, which is very very interesting for many reasons. There are not many people actually knowing the advantage to move to your infrastructure to Graviton, and not only Graviton, because they are not using some basic stuff to save more money inside AWS. I think it's very good opportunity to keep people informed about this. But today, the adoption is still very, very small. But I think it could be changing for in the, I don't know, in the many years. For example, I always shout about this because many people have think that the custom code doesn't run in Graviton. There are a lot of resources right now that you can do all that. For example, Honeycomb is using Node.js, Java, TypeScript, and Go in the same architecture. Everything is running right now in Graviton 3, actually.
Yeah.
So I think it's a matter of testing. It's a matter of course, plan the migration to Graviton. But right now, I think Graviton is ready to move a lot of infrastructure to production right now.
Got it. What's your experience been with migration? Like we of course also run Engineer and a bunch of other companies within the portfolio. And one of the things that I see, especially with external customers, is once they are on a particular instance type, the inertia or the reluctance to move out of even one instance type in the same family to a newer one. Like I still have some customers who are on M2s and T2s, when in fact just yesterday or day before, the T4G got introduced. So like they're unwilling to move even within the same family to a newer instance generation. So they won't move from a T2 to a T3, or from an M2 to an M3, or all the way up to an M6. They just are reluctant to move. Why do you think when you speak to customers, when you speak to the community, why do you think they have that kind of reluctance?
I think it's about I think it's about fear. That's my main insight here, because many of the applications that are already running in the instance from lower level, they will run in the new instance as well. Of course, there are very cases, because there are many companies, many products and services that rely on all this. Of course, that's why there are many cases, many opportunities to move to the new instance class. But I think they always should try the new instance class, because when you do that, you always see not only saving costs, you see as well many. For example, when you move on a new instance from Lambda, you not only save on cost, you actually get more throughput about the all this. Always putting the same example with Honey 7G instance for Lambda, for example, and they saw almost 30% savings for first annually in all this. Of course, they get more requests with the same infrastructure here. So they are more efficient about this.
Got it. So we've generally been a very big fan of Graviton. I mean, we've got dev spaces and a bunch of other products that already are completely on Graviton. And absolutely, like you said, the price performance benefits that you see are absolutely remarkable. And like I said, in reality, the friction to move towards Graviton isn't really that great. but there is definitely a certain fear. Sometimes it feels unfounded.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're running code that's Java or you're running Ruby or any of the interpreted languages, the probability of something not working, unless it's one of those esoteric libraries that were originally written in C or C++ and wrapped with whatever language specific layer. I mean, unless you're running into some of those scenarios, which increasingly is very, very rare, you're not really going to run into any migration issues into Graviton. It's been pretty seamless for the most part. So it seems very unfounded. So yeah, we encourage customers to go check out Graviton. I did have a follow-up question, and this is specifically on AWS. My experience has generally been that AWS has been pretty lazy in a certain sense in terms of promoting Graviton. And I say it selfishly as well. I mean, people change is incredibly hard to implement. And when I see things like the default Lambda, underlying compute is in x86, and you need to explicitly go into the console and then change your Lambda compute to a Graviton to select that, it feels like such a waste, because by default, AWS seems to be making a case for spending more money. And then they make you do this thing that's a big, psychological change to implement, where you have to explicitly go and change it to Graviton. It's almost like one of those, behavioral economics case studies. Yeah, there's this book by Dan O'Reilly where he talks about how in one of the Scandinavian countries they wanted to change the behavior of the public in terms of in terms of organ donations. Like there's just a big reluctance to do it. And one of those countries basically just changed the form, where the default option was you had to, donate all of your organs. And then if you did not want to donate it, you had to explicitly go tick the other one. So this almost feels like a case study in behavioral economics, where you want everyone to adopt Graviton, but I don't understand why AWS wouldn't just make it a default across a bunch of different instantiations. Like whether it's Aurora, whether it's pretty much all the managed services, whether it's Aurora, your Elasticsearch, or now OpenSearch, Kendra, like why would you have to choose, or why would you choose x86 as your default and explicitly make people choose Graviton? So I really wonder about that. Any thoughts?
That's a very good question. But I think from my point of view, they are working a lot with x86 processors for a long time, from Intel, AMD. People are reluctant to change, making that the default option for all this. I think it's not viable for them, at least from today. I think they want to see more people, more companies adopting the Graviton space, all this. But I think for today, it's not very wise right now to put the Graviton option as a default option for this. That's my point of view.
Is this almost like the modern day "no one got fired for buying IBM" type of thinking? Right. Okay. x86 is a known quantity, no matter how much of a case you can make for Graviton. But my whole business, all my compute relies on this. So I'm just going to stick with what I've always been doing. You're going to pry that M1.small from my cold, dead fingers, Yeah, I wonder if there's just that. Yeah, the nervousness, because it sounds so big, right? You're changing the whole CPU, but then having to trust in this whole, like, yes, we have layers of abstraction, and you're not really ever talking to the CPU directly. You're talking to a thing that talks to another thing that talks to another thing, and it's been handled.
Correct. Yeah, I think one part of me feels like I wonder if this is one of those antitrust, safety measures, because at the end of the day, it's a choice, right? I mean, when you're launching these instances, the choices are there. Of course, it's question of what you pick as the default, and if they're just trying to avoid some potential antitrust, issue with this. I mean, if they just made Graviton the default to start with, I wonder if they would run into any problems. But I would think that that's the natural thing to do from an AWS standpoint. That would be the most obvious one to do. Like when I look at the penetration being 1% in the last report that we just spoke about, I read another report that said that about 40% of CPUs that actually got installed in AWS over the last year were Graviton instances or were Graviton chips. Not Intel, not AMD. Like 40% of it was Graviton. So it seems like the capacity planning is disproportionate to the actual utilization that you see. And I wonder if AWS should be doing more to kind of promote a lot more of the Graviton.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they have to promote all this. I assume that right now the reinvent they will all in with Graviton about this, but I think I felt the same way. That's why I started the newsletter, because there is no many. Of course, there are a lot of resources out there to getting started with Graviton, but I think they could be they could do a better way to promote all this. I think completely agree with you about that.
Got it. The next question that I actually have is something that's been bothering me for a bit, but maybe you have a better answer. I've yet failed to get an answer out of AWS on this. So it's been a little over a year since the Graviton, or actually just about a year since the Graviton 3 got announced, which was pretty neat. Unfortunately, they've only limited it to the C-type instances. So you only have the C7G, which is very, very specific to Graviton 3. Everything else that they've still been doing is Graviton 2. In fact, just 2 days ago, they announced the T4G instance type. And I'm surprised that they're not really launching anything with the Graviton 3s. They are still rolling out Graviton 2 across all of these others. What do you think is causing this? Is there like a supply chain problem? Is there like what's causing them to not roll out a whole lot of Graviton 3s across the families?
To be honest with you, I don't know, because I feel the same. I think they should be doing more launches about specifically for the Graviton 3 with more services, more licenses, or the another route here. They are holding everything from the reinvent. Still, I don't know why, because right now I could many companies, many teams out there could be beneficial using right now the new licenses for this, but I don't know. Truly, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, given that they announce all these instance types literally throughout the year, I mean, I can understand a new generation being announced at reInvent, which is kind of what they did last year. But like the least I would have expected was an M7G based on the Graviton 3s. Like that would have been a huge hit. I mean,
Yeah,
general purpose, memory intensive instances, or things that require like some of the database instances. If those the R series or the I series, if those were more compute heavy, those would be remarkable to have using Graviton 3, but those haven't even kind of started on the Graviton 2s in a certain sense. So I really wonder what's holding them back. I wonder if it's just supply chain issues or if it's something else.
I don't know. Truly, I don't know. I would love to see the new MG, as an MG7, I think, because
The
it
M7Gs,
could be a very huge jump for performance, and of course of the saving as well. Because I see that with the C7G, and I asked to some of the teams around there using C7Gs, they feel the same. So the jump from C6G to C7G is huge. It's not only in
Interesting.
performance, it's only the benefits, of course, of the cost benefits as well. Of course, you have to combine. That's another insight I saw about this. In order to save more money using Graviton, of course, you have to combine easy to spot instances, of
Right.
course, paying annually, using Graviton. That combination could be could give you the perfect 40% savings annually.
Yeah, I think if you went to spot, your savings could be as much as 50 or 60%.
Mhm.
But I actually think that they probably don't have enough capacity to offer
Mhm.
spot yet, and that might be a big challenge over there.
Oops.
So
Mhm.
it's something that because the whole point of spot is that when you have excess capacity, you offer it at a discounted pricing, so that at least you
Mhm.
can bump up the utilization. Um, but again, there are no guarantees of the instances sticking around, so you kind of have to manage to that in your architecture. So two big hurdles to that. Number one is I don't think they have capacity at this point. They're still kind of way short on trying to building up that kind of spare capacity just on the gravitons. And I think second, there's just been so much focus on lift and shift in general, um, that I do not believe that a large number of their customers have the ability to leverage spot yet. It's only the
Mhm.
new age architectures that are built, to use auto scaling groups and things. They're the ones who are kind of geared to do this.
Well, looking at
Yeah.
that Vantage report, I mean, it's similar to Spot. I'm looking at the numbers for Lambda, which is very surprising. Which is Graviton adoption on Lambda is growing quickly. So I guess even spottier than Spot. That's interesting, and they cite that. I'll put it up on the screen for a second. Um, let's go to this view. Here it is. Graviton adoption on Lambda is growing quickly. It's interesting the way they said it. These applications are as highly abstracted from the hardware as possible. Switching to the best price to performance CPU is easier, right? So I guess it goes to your point, Raul, about okay for lift and shift, where it's the exact opposite, right? It was built with a very particular data center in mind, a particular Dell 9830 server that's in a physical
Correct.
rack somewhere. So whereas this, I
Correct.
like the way they're saying it for a function that's supposed to run for 15 seconds or so at
Exactly.
most. Okay, it's going to be
Exactly.
pretty abstract.
Correct. So yeah, given that, I think yeah, there aren't that many. The more I look at code bases across, AWS customers, I kind of find that a large number of them aren't really geared to leverage all of this auto scaling and, you know, um, like I think it would be true disaster if they ran Chaos Monkey across 90% of the customer base at AWS. Like it would really be disastrous at every level. I do not believe that the vast majority of AWS customers have architected their solutions to leverage the elasticity and this auto scaling and those kind of capabilities, or even spot instances for that matter. Like they've not built that resilience into their architecture. Any thoughts on that, Marcus? What are you seeing when you look at other AWS customers?
I I depends for it's it's always a mixed bag here because there are many when you see many companies. For example, I working right now with Riot Games. I sent a message through my manager. He's awesome. Riot Games is some of these some of these companies that are very love to test new technologies.
Yeah.
Even them, they were reluctant to use some of these to Graviton. They say, okay, this could be very could be awesome all this, but it's the same. Right now, there are many pieces of the architecture that are very ingrained with Intel and that kind of code, very custom code for this. That's why they don't want to change some of this part of the part of the architecture. That is, I saw the same with other companies as well. There are many things that are custom code for this. I didn't want to change, but in the other spectrum, I seen many companies that they can change today. That's the way they can change today. For example, same example with Honeycomb. They're using, for example, Go.
Yeah.
Go is very good, very good performance inside Graviton. So
Right.
I don't know why they are not changing. They're doing the change today. Go, Docker, any Kubernetes based infrastructure as well, they can change it today. Literally.
Got it. Yeah, I mean that's kind of true. I think the big concern with some of these languages like C, C++, Go, which actually have great performance, is that you typically need to recompile the code for the new architecture, or make sure that all of your libraries are compatible against new architecture, and that's probably a little bit more of a painful process compared to interpreted languages, because they run on a VM. You're just so abstracted out across the layers that when you're running an interpreted language like Java or Python or Perl, Java, Python, Ruby, or even .NET for that matter, like I don't think you would really care about what process is running under the hood. It's just incredibly abstracted out. But yeah, getting it to work for some of the C, C++, Go, the two problems that these customers run into, and I've had a chance to speak to a bunch of customers trying to do this. Number one is they have to recompile everything and make sure it's all working on Graviton. So they have to change a lot of their development tooling to be able to accomplish that. But the second thing that I see very often is that for most of these companies, they don't believe that they have a test suite or a test harness that is capable of validating or not whether their application will work seamlessly on Graviton. In fact, they don't know what to look for in a lot of cases when you're migrating Graviton. Like at an application level, okay, they have 100 tests, but are 100 tests enough to make sure that every one of their libraries has been exercised? Is it like end-to-end testing is typically in the last 3 years has been very highly discouraged as a mechanism to do things, especially in the cloud. So there's more focus on unit testing or component testing. But when everything goes together, like how does it all work, or does it even work? What to test for? I think they feel very not confident, inconfident? No, I don't know, not confident in their ability to test or validate before they deploy to production. And everyone is so traditionally risk averse at this point that, they just want to avoid those kind of potential downtimes at any cost.
I want to mention why one of these because I sent you a link here, Stephen.
We'll put that up in a banner. This is the. Here you go.
Yeah, because many, for example, that link have a very good guideline. For example, for C, C++ applications. Another comment about this. There are many people inside, for example, MRM, working on this. For example, Jason Andrew, that's the name.
Yeah.
He always helpful to help people about compiling, giving all this to this new architecture. So there are many resources out there to do this, to accomplish this. Of course, the test suite is not. It's very complicated, but at least the first things that you want to do, they are already there. They have a
Got it.
very good guideline, very good steps, step by step. And of course, another things I have to mention here is the Graviton Fast Start program as well. Yeah, because
Yeah.
All right.
they put everything in a very good one single page where you can see all the main services using Graviton and how you can use all this. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue to talk about a little bit about the Graviton Fast Start program. You want to talk a little bit about that and tell our viewers about it?
Yeah, I think many. That's why I want to fight a little bit with my guys from AWS, because this is a very good page to with all the things right now. Which you I don't know when
Well, let's pull
when
it
you
up.
want, yeah.
Here, I'll put it on the screen.
Yes, when you want to start all this about the well, you can go below a little below. Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Further.
yeah, yes.
Okay. So
There you can
EC2,
see
Lambda, Fargate,
EC2, Lambda,
RDS.
Fargate, or RDS.
Yeah.
All that links, these Lambda and more. They're very specific blog posts from guys from the AWS team, where they explain step by step how to do all this. For example, for the RDS, you can see the key considerations to move to Graviton your databases. It's very detailed post about this. So I
You can go
think
to learn more.
yeah,
There we go.
this,
Key considerations. Oh, neat.
yeah, this is a very good post because they explain everything you need to know about how to move databases, RDS, Aurora to Graviton-based infrastructure. I think this link could be everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's the main goal. I think this link is very good. This particular link for the Graviton Fast Track program, and get it started at GitHub because they are very
Well,
gold
let's pull up
examples for
the
this.
Graviton Fast Track. Graviton Fast Track. Oh, that's the Fast Start. Hold on. I'll
Yes.
pull up the other link.
Actually, that combination for the fast track
Yeah.
program and this link for the GitHub, where you can see example for codes specific for this tricky application from C, C++. You can see all that one. Okay, they have a very good guideline as well. They're very organized about this. C++, Go, Java, .NET, Python, Rust. Everything is there. That's the main specific things for how to do all this.
Got it.
That combination, these two links, it could be very good for any company thinking to move to Graviton infrastructure.
Got it.
It's really interesting on the C and C++ front, and so even from the high performance computing perspective, even NVIDIA has a blog post about the AWS Graviton 3. What compiler flags you want to use with NVCC, and some good benchmarks. So it's pretty neat, right? That it's going into every. It's not just for the Lambda functions or database, but even in the high performance computing space, which has typically been very, Intel centric, to see the Graviton there.
Correct. And I think, especially the Graviton 3 is very HPC focused. I mean, that's kind of why you only see the C types kind of showing up in their families. But here's a segue I want to do. I want to talk more about the higher order services or the managed services that AWS has. I mean, you're talking about Aurora, OpenSearch. What are the other ones? You have your Redis, the caches, the caching services, Elasticache, and you got a whole slew of these EKS and so on. I mean, EKS still kind of makes a little bit of a difference, but when you talk about something like Fargate or Elasticache, EMR, when you look at all of these services, I mean, in an ideal state, you shouldn't care about what processor is running under hood because you kind of leverage them as services, right? You make an API call or you make a SQL query and you connect to the instance. You get what you want out of it. For some reason, AWS has taken the approach of letting you choose what processor type is running under the hood. And I don't get it. I mean, if you're doing a managed service, why should it matter? I mean, the managed service is like a SaaS deployment. It's SaaS, right? You're making an API call. That's your interface. Why should you care if Elasticsearch is running on Intel or not? Because you're not writing code that is processor specific. I mean, if AWS is going to manage Elasticsearch for you, it's just managing Elasticsearch for you, right? So sometimes AWS logic doesn't make sense to me. So I'm very excited to learn about what you've learned about how they think or what your experience has been. Because in 15 years that I've worked with them, sometimes, I don't know, the decisions don't make sense to me.
I don't know. I think it's about choice. They don't want to push you to one particular choice. They want to so use our services and use wherever you want. We don't want to push you to use, for example, Graviton in this case. I think.
But for managed, like I can understand that being true for EC2, where you're going to deploy your code on the platform, and so you want choice. But if it's a managed service, like I don't think any of us care if Salesforce is running on Graviton or x86, or we don't care if your Google search engine is running on, x86 or Graviton or some, Google specific, their T-type processors or the TPUs or whatever. Like none of us really care about it because we treat it like a API. I mean, it's an API call that gets made. That's a service. It's a managed service for you, or YouTube or StreamYard or any of these services. I think of these higher order services like Aurora, Elasticsearch, Elasticache, and so on, as being services like that. You don't want to manage them. AWS manages that for you end to end. Why on earth would you want customers to make another choice, which actually makes no difference at all? Because it'll work just the same. One is just more expensive than the other. I just don't understand it.
We have the same question here. I think it's good. The same question. I would love to see more managed services using Graviton because I think it could be even more use cases from the same Amazon using Graviton based infrastructure, because I think there is a very interesting talk about 2021, I think, with how they use almost Graviton for Amazon.com. They should be talking more about this. I think this is the next step, I think.
Well, this might serve as a preview then for what we're going to see. Well, almost in about a month's time. So maybe we'll see how Graviton heavy reInvent 2022 is.
Yeah. So, Marcos, let me ask you this. What are your predictions for this reInvent? What do you think AWS is likely to announce at reInvent? I know nobody knows the answer except AWS, but what would be your best guess?
My best guess, to be honest, I think they should be announcing more industry-focused services. For example, I think the healthcare industry is already there are many services using focus on that particular industry, but I think that they should be announcing more about this. So specific solutions for specific industries. I don't know, for example, healthcare, financial services. There are a lot. Of course, manufacturing as well. I think if they could be capturing more market for these particular industries,
Got
it
it.
could be very, very good for this.
Anything in particular around Graviton that you predict that they might decide to announce?
I thought actually I saw a new announcement from AWS Nitro enclaves already
Yes.
in Graviton. So I love to see more of that because I think this could be very useful for this particular industries where for the information is very confidential and restricted. So I want to see more of that.
Got it. But anything that you think that they're about to announce, or that you think they're likely to announce?
Oh, to
No?
be honest, I don't know. They are always in a black box. Of
True.
course, that 3 days for reInvent, they are very crazy times because a lot of announcements in the very
Yeah.
short time. I think that's the one of the things I want to discuss with them because you don't have to wait a whole year to make all these big announcements, specifically for all these things.
Yeah. I think pretty much around end of August, they kind of stop making all the big announcements and it all goes into the reinvent bucket. So I guess we'll all just have to wait and see what gets announced in just a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to be at reinvent? Sorry.
No,
go ahead.
no. I can do this year. Perhaps the next
Okay.
one I could be I would be there.
Great. We're going to be sorry that we're going to miss you over there, but it would have been great to have you. Great. Sorry, Stephen, I interrupted you.
Oh no, I just said I put the Nitro Enclaves article into the comments. And it's neat to see that is also C7G based. Well, they support basically all the Graviton instance types.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just at the underlying hardware layer, kind of separating out the deployments really helps with the isolation story that they want to tell. One of the biggest, I think, arguments that I hear very large and so-called regulated enterprises talk about is the fact that, oh, this is a public cloud and the hardware is pretty much the same across all users, and that's why public cloud is never going to work for us. And I think the Nitro enclaves are a really good way to kind of talk around that argument.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this just got announced 3 days ago.
October 21st,
Yeah.
4 days.
3-4 days ago, yeah. This weekend went by in a blur for me, so yeah.
With the
3 days is
exhilaration
like
of that cricket win plus the holiday, that's
correct. With all the fireworks and all, my head is in a different space. But yeah, I mean, this is a great announcement, which really helps bring in a lot more of the regulated industries to not have those excuses that they've been making to not be on the public cloud. So yeah, pretty welcome change.
Well, Marcos, to bring you into our tradition, for this Nitro Enclaves, how would you rate this? I told you about our clouds rating system. How would you rate the this Nitro Enclaves article?
I think it is 5 clouds free.
All right. We'll 5.
Wow, 5. Is that a first? I don't think we've ever given out a 5.
No. I think you gave a 5 cloud to something about Connect.
Ah, okay.
All right.
Connect has just had so many announcements.
Yeah, they have a very high batting average to keep the theme going.
Correct. But
all right,
awesome. 5
clouds, and then does this make life simpler, more complicated, or are we neutral about it?
No, I think this is life more very, very more simpler about this.
All right, so we give this the simplifies tag. This is great. Yeah. All right, well, 5-star and simplified. This is setting a high bar.
Yeah, we also need the Marcos stamp on this.
There we go.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So one last thing, Marcos. You are a developer advocate and what is your advice to anyone that's considering migrating to Graviton? Like, what are the top 3 things you tell them to think about?
For the first one, it's always visibility, because you have to know where you are right now,
Okay.
how many, where is your code, where is your architecture, what are the instances you're using right now, and of course his compatibility with the Graviton as well. So the
Got
first
it.
one is always the visibility.
Okay,
Now,
so
if you can
visibility
use,
is number 1.
yeah. The
Great.
second one, of course, if you are using complicated things like C++ and that kind of stuff, of course, it could be a larger migration here. But if you're using, I don't know, things like Golang, things like Node.js, just pick a new instance, test from there. But start today, because I think it could be very beneficial for you, the company, to move your code to Graviton. So
Got it. So
start
that's number
testing
2.
today.
So get started today is
Yeah,
number
get
2.
started today. That's the big
Yeah.
one.
I love I love calls to action, like
Yeah,
getting people moving. Like today, great.
And,
Yeah.
and even if it's just modifying your test suite to say, okay, well, might as well just have 2 parallel test suites, one running on Graviton, one not, just to see what happens.
Yeah.
Right? Why not?
yeah. The third one, of course, is go to the bottom, to the top. First, if you're using EC2, let's start there, make some tests. Then if you're using the database, make some tests as well. But of course, the second, start today. Don't wait more, because I think the same thing that we were talking about. If you are using, for example, a Spot, EC2 Spot instances, Graviton, the jump is huge, very very. Start today. Start of course, at the bottom to the top.
And you have seen companies that actually realize these numbers, right? Because when there's often say, oh, well, when a company says I can save that much, is that actually true? But then you say people are seeing these 25, 30, 40% realized savings.
Yes. For example, there is a very interesting article about the Gum. They move some of the infrastructure to that. Even it's not the whole architecture about this. They're saving 25% about all the costs, annual costs about this. So it's very huge jump about cost. Of course, they are getting more requests because they are using Lambda for some of the services. So they did the same thing. Start small tests for this, and then let's do it.
Awesome.
All right. And then finally, if people want to know, if they want to stay informed about all things Graviton, where do they go?
AWS Graviton Weekly.com. That's the newsletter. It's completely free. It's
please
weekly.
subscribe and stay informed about everything that's Graviton related. As everyone would know, AWS basically has a fire hose of announcements, and Marcos has been doing an amazing job of curating all the Graviton specific announcements and news and information and putting it all over here. So please subscribe to the newsletter from Marcos, and subscribe to our live streams and podcasts as well.
Yep, hit that notification bell. We have a great weekly cadence, and it's been really, really fun process putting this together. And Marcos, like you said about we're learning. It's been really fun, being obligated to do it, in the sense that it's been great being able to follow all the AWS news that's come out and really take some time to think about, okay, what's the importance? What's the relevance?
Correct.
How do I use all this stuff to help my deployments, my infrastructure, to save money? It's pretty neat time we're living in.
Awesome. Thank you.
And thank you so much for being on the show again, Marcos. It was an absolute pleasure. We'd love to have you back again in a few weeks, hopefully after the reInvent announcements. to
Yeah.
talk about any of the new stuff that they do. So fingers crossed, there'll be some interesting Graviton-based announcements coming up shortly.
Fingers crossed.
And but once again, thank you so much for joining us, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks to you for the invitation. Let's do it again for after the rain band, the drinks, all that kind of stuff. Let's do it again.
Fantastic.
Sounds great. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
See you later. Bye-bye.
See
Bye.
you. Bye.
Is your AWS public cloud bill growing? While most solutions focus on visibility, CloudFix saves you 10 to 20% on your AWS bill by finding and implementing AWS recommended fixes that are 100% safe. There's zero downtime and zero degradation in performance. We've helped organizations save millions of dollars across tens of thousands of AWS instances. Interested in seeing how much money you can save? Visit cloudfix.com to schedule a free assessment and see your